In January of this year, I went to Taiz, and of course we saw these city, and the city is on the front line. And beyond, of course, looking for potential coffee projects and coffee development opportunities where we can facilitate livelihood generation through coffee sourcing and coffee trading activities, I was also looking to just connect and understand with the community of Taiz and the people of Taiz to begin to appreciate what they've gone through over the last 6 or 7 years. When we went there, and after spending a few days in the rural communities and with the farmers, we went into the city, which is where much of the destruction took place. And in the city, I was told that if you really want to understand the devastation that's taken place in Taiz, you have to go to the front line and you have to see it to believe it. So off to the front line we went, and we visited a neighborhood called Al-Kamb neighborhood. Now, Al-Kamb neighborhood was a very affluent and a very popular area of Taiz. It was hip and happening. And I recall and remember because I had many friends who lived in that region. As soon as you enter the neighborhood, you're taken aback by the complete and utter destruction and decimation that's taken place in this neighborhood. Everything is destroyed. And it's an absolute ghost town. The buildings are dilapidated and abandoned. The roads are no longer functioning as roads. I mean, you see trees coming out of the tarmac, and you see the front line. You hear the front line of the conflict also. You hear it taking place about 100 meters away from you. And then you look left and you look right, and family coming out of it and looking down at you. And that just compounds your shock that this community that you knew and you remembered as being so beautiful and full of life, to see it as it is now, full of death. And my first question was, why? Why are you here? Why are you living in this? And by this I mean not just in this destruction, but also in this level of risk. Their answer was quite simple. Well, what other choice do we have? The only other choice that they have is to become internally displaced refugees, is to become internal refugees and to go look for a refugee camp to live in a tent that they may or may not get. And that comes with all sorts of risks that will then follow. So they said, well, we'd rather stay in our homes and accept the risk, accept the extremity of the situation that we're in, but at least it's my home. And that's quite powerful, that a home remains a home even in the midst of such a devastating circumstance. And so we said, well, what can we help with? And we said, well, that's the conflict. I mean, aren't you afraid of that? They said, don't worry about what's ahead, look at what's below. When I look at what's below, we see sewage, we saw sewage everywhere. And so of course the sewage networks in this community had collapsed as a result of the neglect. And as a result of the sewage, there are waterborne diseases, and people are catching diseases and dying because of these diseases. And I said, well, surely these diseases are avoidable. I mean, there's treatment for them. They said, yes, but we can't afford the treatment. And the medical aid that arrives to Taiz doesn't enter this community because it's considered too high risk. So people are dying in this community because they don't have access to medicines that's worth $2 or $3 per application. So the level of need and the extremity of the situation is really difficult to fathom and appreciate. Is anyone helping? And they said nobody. Unfortunately, this community, this neighborhood is considered too high risk. It exceeds the risk threshold of most INGOs, most international charities, and so there's nobody helping here. We wanted to raise awareness. We wanted to bring attention to this community. We wanted to bring attention to these forgotten pockets within this forgotten city, within this forgotten country, in this forgotten conflict. We wanted desperately, and we still want desperately, to bring attention and raise awareness of what's happening here.